In a hidden canyon, two unlikely allies are forced to confront deadly creatures, secret experiments, and a dark conspiracy that could change the world. When the line between friend and foe blurs, will they survive the deadly truth of the valley? Watch now to uncover the secrets lurking in the gorge. At 3 a.m. in Shaozhou, ever since he came to the canyon, Levi had always felt like something was crawling up. Fortunately, it turned out to be just a false alarm. He turned around and saw that the woman opposite him, Driscoll, hadn't been able to sleep the whole night either. This made Levi feel like they were in the same boat. It turned out that they both had the same job: guarding the mysterious canyon in the middle of nowhere. This is a place so remote that even Google satellite can't find it. There are several large interference devices set up on both sides of the canyon, and it's Levi's task to make sure they're running smoothly every day. But why does he do such a simple job? After all, he's one of the best snipers in the world, a Marine Corps elite ranked 5th globally. To answer his doubts, Levi activated a flashbang and threw it into the canyon. That's when he heard the sound of a wolf's howl echoing from below. Turns out the real reason they were guarding the canyon was to keep the monsters down there from crawling out. Levi explained that the creature was called a stargazer. Back in 1940, 3 battalions of troops had been sent in to destroy it, but none of them ever came back. Ever since then, the higher-ups have changed the approach to defense, building a military tower to watch over it. This also explained the iron nets, the automated weapons, and the landmines. After Levi finished his shift, he was happy to leave. His plane landed as planned, but when he got to the office, he found out that all the guards in the area hadn't survived. Meanwhile, Levi was still in the office, still dazed, still doing his job every day. Other than reporting his work over the radio, he had no contact with the outside world. The communication between the east and west towers was even shut off. One day, Levi heard the sound of electricity buzzing coming from the east. He couldn't help but use his electronic telescope to check it out, and found that the guard opposite him was Driscoll. This surprised him. He hadn't expected her to be there. But Driscoll was no ordinary person. She was a well-known top killer. But after her last assassination target was too sensitive, she'd been introduced by a middleman to hide in the canyon for a year. 2 months later, Driscoll's plan was exposed because of her shot. It turned out that this day was Levi's birthday. He asked Driscoll what she was good at by writing on the board. When he saw Levi playing with a big knife in front of the official palace, Driscoll's competitive spirit kicked in. So she took 9 shots. She wanted to show Levi what a real expert looked like. But in the next second, as the two of them exchanged fire, Driscoll's expression suddenly changed. She realized there was a threat beneath her feet. She held her breath and slowly started to back away. This was the first time she saw an empty heart from a distance. Levi, still in his military uniform, didn't have time to think too much. He quickly pulled out his gun and fired. He killed one of them, but more of these empty hearts were coming up. Luckily, Levi was positioned on the other side of the line. With precise shooting, he didn't need to take another shot, but when one of the creatures fell, it triggered a mine, and a huge explosion sent Driscoll falling. Seeing that she was injured, Levi immediately started firing his Gatling gun like crazy, shooting at anything that moved. Driscoll struggled to get back up, but the line of fire was too thick. No matter how many of these things they killed, they kept coming. Luckily, one of the empty hearts triggered a red alert, and that was enough to set off 2 self-defense machine guns. Meanwhile, 7 or 8 gunshots rang out, bouncing off the cliff, and in the end, all the empty hearts were eliminated. Levi, still worried about Driscoll, watched as she struggled to climb over a shell. She wrote something on a board. Next, we need to repair each other's damaged future and replenish the empty mines. Levi couldn't help but feel something warm in his chest as Driscoll took up her position, guarding the house on the east side. But just then, a drone suddenly appeared over the canyon. It even hovered right in front of Levi as if it were watching him. Luckily, before the self-defense machine guns could start firing, the drone flew off and both of them were left shaken. After the battle, the canyon went silent again. But after that last skirmish, the two of them started to become friends. They began playing Go every night. Playing Go was a piece of cake for explosive players like them. While they played, they let out some of the bitterness from their hearts, and their bond grew stronger. Unfortunately, there was something they could never quite get past. It was almost the anniversary of Driscoll's father's death. She wrote her wish down on the board, her sadness clear in the words, "I hope Levi is by my side." Levi, not knowing what to expect, took her seriously. So, when he started getting busy, Driscoll was both surprised and happy. Unknowingly, she started looking at a missile she'd modified. She aimed it and fired. The next second, the bullet flew into the forest, pulling a rope with it. Driscoll reacted quickly, rushing into the forest with a fire extinguisher. She put out the fire before the rope broke. Levi followed the rope's path, and soon enough he found himself standing in front of Driscoll. That night, after eating a rabbit meat pie she'd made, the two of them shared an unforgettable evening. But, as we all know, happy times are short. The next day, as Levi was preparing to leave, disaster struck just before he was about to reach the finish line. The rope snapped, sending Levi falling into the deep canyon. Even though he saw her coming with a parachute, Driscoll still ran to the armory, grabbed her weapons, and took the parachute bag. She ran without hesitation for a month, but didn't expect there would be another rope in the canyon. Driscoll was swept away by the water almost immediately. Luckily, Levi managed to cut off the parachute in time, and was able to float to the surface. But the electric lifter fell during the struggle, and Levi was in trouble. When he fell, he got stuck in a tree. Unconscious, a mutated insect slowly crept toward him. Fortunately, Levi sensed it and opened his eyes just in time. The insect raised its head and came closer. Terrified, Levi quickly pulled out his gun and fired. At the same time, the parachute unhooked. The next moment, he fell hard to the ground, accidentally landing on some sort of creature. A strange liquid stuck to his back, holding him in place. Then, sharp-toothed creatures appeared around him. They were about to attack. At that critical moment, Driscoll appeared, gun in hand, shooting the sharp-toothed creatures. Seeing Driscoll risk her life to save him, Levi was deeply moved. After that, they discussed finding the east cliff. They planned to climb back up with the broken rope. But as they made their way, they suddenly heard a scream echoing through the canyon. The two of them immediately took up their guns, ready to defend themselves. Two strange men rushed out of the canyon. It was clear their bodies had been fused with branches. They held long knives and attacked Levi. Luckily, they fought back hard enough to recognize them as soldiers from the 3 missing battalions. But it was strange. They had somehow survived for all these years. There was a terrifying mutiny, and it seemed like the canyon was truly cursed. It was time to leave as quickly as possible. But as the night rain fell, Driscoll suddenly realized the climber was missing. This left both of them feeling desperate for a moment. The canyon's depth was 500 meters, and with nothing but their human strength, they couldn't climb back up. So, they decided to head down the river in search of an exit. And so, they began their adventure. Along the way, they encountered mutants everywhere. Beings that looked like a mix of humans and trees. Their expressions were disturbingly vivid. It felt as if the pain that had once been experienced was frozen in time. They made their way through the terrifying woods and soon came upon a small town. It was strange and shrouded in thick fog. The two of them had no choice but to step into it, braving whatever dangers lay ahead. The huge crack in the ground was a sign that an earthquake had once torn through this place. Suddenly, they heard the roar of the hollow creatures closing in. With no other choice, the two of them rushed to hide in the church ahead. But the inside of the church was just as eerie. It was full of white bones. Levi picked up a box in their hands and sniffed it. It was cyanide, indicating they had all committed suicide. But what was worse than death? Suddenly, Driscoll felt something was wrong with her head. She raised her flashlight only to realize that countless mutants were hiding in the church, each wearing a skull on its head. The two of them panicked and opened fire. But there were so many mutants, they couldn't kill them all. Driscoll seized the opportunity to escape. She shot a missile in the back, blasting a hole to make a path. She tried to keep them from escaping, but the sounds of the hollow creatures filled the air. The two of them were forced to retreat to the air raid shelter once again. In the shelter, they found an abandoned laboratory, the workers long dead. Levi found a roll of film in one of their hands. Driscoll discovered a backup generator. Then she used the projector to display the film. The long-hidden secret was finally revealed. It turned out the valley had once been a secret lab during World War II. They'd been studying nuclear bombs here with a focus on biological weapons. But when an earthquake struck, it caused a massive leak, mixing biological genes. And through some strange fusion, it produced a mutated virus. Anyone infected would mutate within 5 days. Luckily, the unique geography of the valley kept the virus from spreading. This revelation terrified both Levi and Driscoll. They knew they had to escape the valley fast, but they stumbled upon a modern computer which immediately caught their attention. After booting it up, they found another shocking secret. The sponsor behind all of this wasn't the military. It was a genetic research company called Black Lake. For years, Black Lake had secretly sent drones to the valley to extract gene samples for their super soldier program. Levi and Driscoll had unwittingly become the guardians of the secret. If the location of the valley were exposed, Black Lake would initiate a self-destruct protocol, destroying everything within 4 kilometers. The truth left them both in shock. No wonder they'd seen drones flying out earlier. Now, their priority was to get out of the valley before it was too late. They carefully opened the gate and found that the hollow creatures were hiding in the fog, but Driscoll remained calm and pulled out a smoke bomb. Since they couldn't see clearly, neither could the hollow creatures. But Driscoll hit one in the head from 10 meters away. Before Levi could react, Driscoll was dragged out of the shelter by a rope. She was being pulled at high speed and she was injured by the branches. In a panic, she tried to fire back, but the bullets ran out. Then there was a heavy blow and she was knocked out cold. Levi could only chase after her. There was no choice but to press on. Levi spotted a staircase and started descending. At the same time, Driscoll was hung high up. The hollow creatures tried to torture her, but Driscoll broke free and fought to the death. But her helpless body eventually caused her to fall to the bottom. Luckily, she wasn't completely helpless. She grabbed a burning branch and used it to ignite one of the hollow creatures. Just then, Levi arrived. With one shot, he took down the hollow creature. Their battle was intense, but after everything calmed down, Levi realized that the hollow creature they'd just killed was the first generation of guards. This was all part of Black Lake's twisted plan. There was no time to waste. The two of them quickly fled the launch site. They managed to get their hands on an old jeep, which became their chance for survival. They used it to climb out of the valley, using an old footboard as an automatic climber. Just when they thought they were free, more hollow creatures followed, and they were faster than the jeep. Driscoll was terrified, but Levi handed her a toolbox, hoping to block the switch. This slowed down their climb, but the hollow creatures were too fast to outrun. The two of them had no choice but to keep climbing. In the fight, Levi fell but managed to grab hold of a compost block. In a panic, Driscoll broke open the propane box and threw a firecracker. The flames burned the rope, taking out all the hollow creatures. The blast sent a shockwave, and the fire turned into an explosion, destroying everything in its path. Levi and Driscoll managed to climb to safety, but as they looked back, the canyon was gone. Though they had narrowly escaped death, they knew the danger wasn't over yet. The two of them decided to stay isolated for 5 days, just in case they had been infected. They agreed that if either of them was infected, they'd isolate themselves. If they weren't, they'd escape to France and live a peaceful life in the countryside. Levi's dream life. But of course, he couldn't do it alone. Before leaving, Levi kissed Driscoll goodbye. Then he crossed over to the other side of the rope. Back at the tower, he reported his safety over the radio. But suddenly, a voice came through. Major Dyer, the superior, had turned on the drone computer. She suspected Levi had contacted the East Tower. Levi denied everything, but their actions had already been recorded by surveillance. The superior immediately ordered a team to head to the canyon and eliminate both Levi and Driscoll. On the 6th day, the two split up as originally planned to set up the satellite disruptors. These disruptors were crucial to triggering the self-destruct program. As they met up again, both were relieved to see each other safe. But then, the sound of helicopters overhead shattered the peace. They hadn't expected the company to act this quickly. The plane landed, and when there was no one left in the tower, Major Dyer realized the two had escaped. She sent out 4 drones to hunt them down. Soon, Levi was locked onto by one of the drones, which started firing at him. Levi dodged the bullets but was hit by a tree trunk. He returned fire and destroyed the drone. Driscoll, from her high vantage point, took out 2 more drones. At the same time, they reached the disruptor station. Their sniping range was 3.8 kilometers, a challenge unlike any they'd faced before. In the blink of an eye, their mission was complete. The explosion from their success sent Major Dyer into a frenzy. Hearing the alarm, she gave the order to retreat. 1 minute later, Driscoll was 4 kilometers away, but Levi, slowed down by his injuries, was behind. As he neared the finish line, the shockwave from the explosion struck, and the canyon was destroyed. The company's copter was a bit too slow, and they couldn't escape in time. As Driscoll waited for Levi to show up at the rendezvous, she realized he hadn't made it. He never returned. Driscoll made it to France and settled down in the countryside, often thinking of Levi. Then, one day, out of the blue, Levi appeared in front of her studio.